Hello, my name is James Williams. I am the Director of Programs with the Mobile Ecosystem Forum, the global neutral voice of 20 years. Now, I've been saying 20 years for a couple of months, but guess what? This week, Jason?
Woohoo! Happy birthday, Matt!
Everyone, come on. We made it 20 years. We are 20 years old, which is absolutely fantastic. So 20 years to the day, it would have been Tuesday. We started off as an organization. There were 5 founding companies. I was actually working for one of them at the time, Converse Technologies, and came together with the idea. It was called at the time the Mobile Entertainment Forum. And 6 years ago now, it was rebranded to the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. I'm pleased to be joined today by 4 industry heavyweights, some serious depth and breadth of experience across the industry. And we're today talking really about the development of mobile and the mobile ecosystem as a whole. And the word education may be mentioned now and again in today's conversation. So without further ado, if I can move to introducing our panelists today, I'd like to start off with Andrei Insarov from Intis Telecom. Andrei, welcome. Hi.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Good. If you could introduce yourself and your company, go for it.
Yeah, I'm Andrei Insarov. I'm a CEO of Intis Telecom, international company which focused on text messaging, especially for small and medium enterprises.
Fantastic. Welcome, Andrei. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, I live in London currently, near London, and yeah, all right.
And you're surviving here in the UK, having moved from Russia. Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Next, we move across the pond. Let's go to Washington, but the seat of power, not the West Coast. That would be Mr. Matt Ekram from Infinite Convergence. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Thanks, MEF, for the invitation to this excellent event. My name is Matt Ekram. I'm a director for the Americas. I've been in mobile, like James said, almost 25 years now. I mean, James and I know each other way back when we were working together. Been 10 years in messaging. A bit about, Infinite Convergence. At Infinite, we cover everything, mobile messaging from the carrier services to enterprise. We are formerly Motorola Messaging. On the carrier side, we power, FEMA, Presidential Alert, broadcast messaging, SMS, MMSC, and we are also a global company. Our HQ is in Chicago. Also, we have offices in Munich, Singapore, and India. And I think, what I want to share with the team throughout this conversation is, how we are helping enterprise, both on the business messaging as well as the secure agile community collaboration, our solution for next year. I think it will be an interesting conversation. I look forward to continue the discussion further later.
Nice that you could join us, because I know I've known you 10 years, but we've never done anything like this together ever. I don't know how we've avoided this, but we have. Anyway, moving on, we're going back across the pond to the UK. Mr. Tim Ward from XConnect. Please introduce yourself and your company.
Hi, everybody, and again, thanks very much to the MEF for this opportunity to talk on a subject I love. Tim Ward, work for XConnect. I'm responsible for our number information services line of business, and kind of that title almost tells the story. What we do is we provide number information services. These are used for validation, for routing, for fraud management, and our major market is across the messaging ecosystem. Also used for voice networking services as well. But we see ourselves as kind of an enabler, which is allowing people to route and validate their messaging services effectively and quickly.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim. And Jason, if you could introduce yourself, please. Jason Lund from IMI Mobile.
So hi everyone, Jason Long from IMI Mobile, also a board director for MEF. I think for those of you who don't know, IMI Mobile has a base in the UK in London, but originally founded over in India. Offices around the world, South Africa, Middle East, US, Canada, etc. Team of about 1,200 now, which you know, company's come a long way from where I originally joined, which is great to see. You know, you talking about the 20th birthday, James, it reminded me to take the cover off my my piece of history behind me here.
Is that an Amp? No, it's a BBC. It was an Acorn or something.
That is a Commodore PET.
Commodore, that's right.
First computer I ever used when I was at school. And yeah, life-changing when you say education, because that was the first computer. So it shows how old I am when that computer's 40 years old, you know. But yeah, looking forward to today's chat. So
fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining us here at MEF. Much appreciated. So I'm going to start off with Andre. I'm going to ask each of you a very, very simple question. If you look around the world, we have billions and billions of people, and there are still approximately 2 billion people who are not connected. So Andre, if you imagine you were a teacher and you were giving the whole mobile industry their report card, how would you grade the mobile industry, essentially us, the ecosystem, on helping to connect up the world and bring those who have no connectivity into a connected world? What grade would you give the industry and why?
So actually, I think that currently situation is quite good because there are a lot of cheap mobile devices and there are a lot of people in poor countries can use mobile internet, for example, because I told with my colleagues in Africa, and they told me that even poor people they can hasn't house, but they have a mobile device, cell phone, and I believe that in maybe 5 or 10 years, almost all people will have access to mobile technology, mobile devices, mobile internet, and so on.
I think so. So your grade, what grade would you give? A B minus, or would you be more charitable, an A minus? What do you think?
B.
A B, a nice solid B. And I think for me, the important word you used there was access, because having access is one thing, but actually using is a different matter. We're going to be talking a lot about that later. We move to Matt. The same question to you.
Oh, yes, I would give, I think in general, when it comes to, you know, the provision of technology, the ecosystem, you know, the coverage, you know, Andre talks about mobile phone. I would give a solid B. I think we've achieved a lot of that from a connectivity and technology. Obviously, there's improvement to be made, you know, to address some of the poor countries and the low connectivity to improve that. But I think in general, you know, the global, as compared to other technologies, you know, the mobile ecosystem works very well. I mean, you can travel anywhere, you can be anywhere, and you have options to access. So I think access is pretty damn good. I think the question that I would bring is that, you know, it's about the usage and applying and adapting to the specific environment and technology. You know, we talk, you know, obviously, you know, we talk about business messaging and using SMS. I mean, I know in the US, we work with schools and university and colleges, for example, you know, beyond the financial and the other in enterprise, to use, you know, some of this basic technology in communicating and enhancing, you know, the user or the patient care or the engagement of an enterprise with the consumer. So I think, you know, even SMS plays a very good role. The other piece I want to add is that, you know, the whole then there's sort of demand with this pandemic environment, James. is that we see the need for a collaboration, you know, like people are demanding, you know, we are talking virtually here. So the need for a solution like for example, that we do, NetSphere, for example, in terms of providing a suite of accessibility for video, screen sharing, messaging, chat, text, that allow, you know, I mean, not just students, but also in a secure environment. And that's, I think, is kind of a key to just some of the example of where, you know, this application specific and adapting it to the environment, whether in a high access or high speed environment, or low access and low speed environment, such as in the poor countries. So that's you know, in a nutshell what I think where we are today.
Great, Matt, thank you very much. But I think your assumption there would be that we have connectivity, and this is the thing. I know certainly here in the UK, there are plenty of people, so many children at home who may not have data access. And I know certainly the UK mobile operators and MEF members are working together to ensure hundreds of thousands of kids around the UK are getting some form of data access to help them at school. Tim, what about yourself and your opinion on mobile and where we are? Are you so charitable, giving it solid B? We've had a solid B.
Well, if I may, I'll give two answers.
Okay, go for it. I'll say go for it, but then I may go back with myself once I've heard.
You might change your mind. You might change your mind. But if I'm looking at it from a sort of sales and marketing point of view, then 70% market penetration, which is kind of what you're talking about. You know, probably a third of the world doesn't have mobile phone. 2/3. So okay, let's say 70%. That is an astonishing score. If you're thinking about 70% market penetration for a global market, where else do you ever see that? And you could only give yourself an A star with a distinction for an astonishing sort of outreach of a whole new technology and a whole new way of communicating in a relatively short period of time. You're only really talking, you know, 20 years, and we've changed the world, or the ecosystem has changed the world. However, if I look at it from a sort of educational and a teacher's point of view, you know, a teacher will sit there and say, look, my job is to make sure there's a level playing field. Everybody is brought up to exactly the same level. Everyone's got the same tools, the same understanding, that no one is disadvantaged by a lack of facilities or infrastructure or anything else. So in that case, couldn't do better than a C, because really, you know, there's still a very, very long way to go. And whilst I think we usually think about the emerging countries maybe not having the infrastructure, I think you just really put your finger on an important point here. And even in a country like the UK, where a number of us are sitting today, we've got great penetration when you think about families, but when you come to the individual and the necessity that this world we're living in at the moment has brought of absolute communication being the only way, we've still got a long way to go, even in the so-called developed countries. So I'm afraid I can only go for it just about a C from an education point of view.
Tim, thank you. And over to you, Jason. Do you agree there's this disparity between essentially the connected haves and the unconnected have-nots? And do you see it growing? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with you there, Tim. You know, it has been a great journey, but there is so much to do. I think seeing, you know, you talk about the haves not, even in countries like the UK. You know, last night, for example, I was doing my bit, rebuilding an old laptop for a single parent friend and their child, so that their child can be educated at home, because they have one phone that they use between them. So, okay, I got this whole laptop, I'll rebuild it, and I'll go and deliver it tonight to them, make sure they can do a few video sessions and stuff to show them. We'll be away. And I think everyone's doing their bit to try and improve the situation. Yesterday, Virgin in the UK, you know, they announced Virgin Media. I think I was just reading the announcement. Yeah, 1,500 laptops and mobile dongles they said they were going to give out yesterday. And all this helps improve the situation in one country. And I know other countries are doing similar things, but there still are a lot of have-nots. And that needs to change, but always the goalposts are moving. and that's where it's hard. The goalposts are moving. You know, we all want improvements in the service provision. We all want to see evolution to make things better and easier. You know, some of the things that, for example, we would do in the UK with our systems is we'd use our data services provision. So data from the mobile operators to help our customers complete transactions simpler. So, you know, has this SIM been swapped on this device? Those kind of things. But there aren't many places in the world that's available yet. And that'll take some time to roll out. But again, that improves the lifestyle and the experience of everyone around the world. But first of all, they need the device and the connectivity. Then they need all the use cases, and then all these other data services and other things on the back of it help improve that lifestyle. But it will mean there's a disparity, because I don't think you can get everyone up to the same level.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Andre, so you come from Russia, and your business is heavily in Russia, ex-CIS countries. Of course, you're an international company. You've got offices in other countries around the world. But let's talk about the areas you're really expert in, your home country, Russia, and the CIS countries. How do you see the mobile landscape there, and what's stopping it from growing? Because I know we've spoken about this before, and with the mobile operators in Russia and potential contractual roadblocks in terms of getting people connected, it's quite hard in some cases. But what's the situation?
The situation is very, very good, because I believe that developing of mobile technologies in Russia is one of the most developed in the world. Why? Because growing mobile network started not so many time ago, and it was a reason that all modern technology were started in Russia. And for example, in compare with the United States, the speed of internet connection is higher. Internet in Russia very, very fast, and I think that reason is
Well, I can help you. I know what you're saying. So,
sorry.
So no, I can get what you're saying here. So from Russia, you came from a standing start, but you've really accelerated that development very, very fast with ingenuity.
Yes, and Russia get access from last technologies.
So I think, exactly. So I think we're seeing this in large parts of the world, where countries who haven't had anything at all, suddenly their first networks are 4G or 5G or something like that. They're going straight in to the top, rather than having to fight the way through 1, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, etc. So
and second reason that mostly people in Russia use pay-as-you-go tariffs, and this reason that almost all people in Russia has access to mobile internet, mobile technology. They shouldn't have a good credit score, for example, to connect with the postpaid tariffs. They can just go to any shop and get a SIM card and use mobile internet, use mobile technology. And this is a very, very, very cheap. For example, access to internet with quite a fast speed has cost maybe €5 per month.
That's really
even €3. This is 100 rubles. Yeah, in some cases, just €1 per month, and you will get access to mobile internet. This is very, very cheap.
That's a point I think we're going to be talking about a bit more, the commercial models around connectivity, because you can have the networks, you can have everything, but if the commercial model isn't attractive, no one's going to use it. Mr. Ekram, what do you say to all this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can share my, the US specific experience in terms of access. And I think I would say in the US, from a mobile connectivity, internet access, in general, it's pretty good. I mean, I think the issue, like any other developed nation, is the equitable, the disparity between, the haves and the have-not. The urban areas will get better connection. Obviously, there's improvement that needs to be done in the rural areas, which is vast in the US specifically. So that is some of the key I guess development that has to be done to give more equitable and access to everybody. But I think I also want to add a bit more about some of the use cases that we are seeing. I think I think, like I said, with this pandemic, we've seen the usage, the use cases, especially maybe one use case that I can bring up is the U.S. public and schools, colleges using communication to connect teachers, to connect parents, students, to deliver notification, to provide collaboration. I mean, we at Infinite Convergence have been engaged in many parts of that sector, especially both on the business messaging SMS, as well as the so-called, what we call a secure agile collaboration service within to provide kind of a video, voice, and I think the big part, I think maybe James, to something that maybe MEF would be keen to hear is that security, security, privacy, GDPR compliance. I mean, that is what do we know? We know the US, we don't adopt GDPR per se, but that is a big issue. We have forums after forums discussing how do we provide security and data privacy. So I think that will drive some of the issues and concern when it comes to moving forward and really liberalizing this the ecosystem to further.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I think you raise a very, very interesting point there. And I know, for example, Internetorg, which was Facebook-backed, founded in 2013, they're wanting to go to 42 countries around the world, give essentially free access to the internet. But it wasn't free access to the full internet. It was only certain parts of it. And this is exactly it, because there's a quid pro quo, like you essentially were alluding to. Tim, where do you stand on this? How do you see things panning out?
How do I see it panning out? I mean, I think, we've talked about education and so how you kind of level that playing field. And I think, you've got a very interesting twist which has happened at, well, I'm not sure interesting is the right word, a devastating twist which has hit us over this year, where the way we are communicating has actually fundamentally changed in a very, very short period of time. All of a sudden, we're not speaking face to face. We're not having usual meetings. We can't have the kind of, the Americans refer to as the water cooler conversation. And that has meant we've had to actually learn to do things differently. I kind of look at the way I've been using my mobile phone, and, I used to use it because I was traveling. I needed to be mobile. I needed to be out and about, and I needed that communication pretty much wherever or whenever it was. And I'd learned to use it in that way. I'd educated myself, and the people I worked with knew that's the way I operated. I think that's also a very important point, that, you've got almost a community of people who are doing things in the same way. So you know what's good, you know what's right, you know what's acceptable, and you've established a way of operating. All of a sudden, I'm working from a home office all the time. All of a sudden, the communication has actually changed. Obviously a call like this has become the norm. This is the new mobile, in that, we now don't actually move ourselves, but we move our conversations to wherever they need to be. And then I look at how I'm using my mobile phone in that environment, and all of a sudden it's taken on a new role. There's a new role in deliveries. There's a new role in the information that's provided to me by my phone, because security has suddenly become a much bigger problem. I'm using two-factor authentication like there is no tomorrow. I do about 4 or 5 authentications a day now as I sign into various applications, and that's become part of my life. I didn't used to do that because I went into a secure environment in a VPN with networks and systems that knew who I was and where I was. They don't anymore. I can be anywhere. So I've got a real kind of problem of educating myself. I've changed the way I do things, but I think there's then a whole lot of other people who can learn from, you know, what we as a community have learned about these things. So I think, to me, those are some of those areas where changing environment, a different role with what you're doing with your phone, a different role with what you're doing with conference calls and face-to-face meetings, is requiring self-education and making sure that we all do it the same way, learning the new etiquette of that form of communication, which to be honest, is really quite different.
Tim, thank you. Over to you, Jason.
Wow. Trying to figure out where to go from that, Tim. Very, very thoughtful.
I think it is hardest going last, Jason, because lots of people will have said something you were going to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with what the team are saying, Andre and Matt and everyone. Yeah, I think for me, I look at some of the things that, you know, we've done, not only, you know, in me and IMI and those roles, but actually, you know, with my MEF hat on and the activities we've done there around thinking, how do you educate the ecosystem, but actually, how do you educate wider than that? So I'm going to pick a particular subject, James. I don't know if you were going to mention it or not, but I'm going to pick this subject anyway right now, which is around you know, the UK Sender ID Protection Register. And the reason I want to bring that up really is because, you know, the whole point around this in the UK was to help protect citizens. But how do we do it? Well, actually, the whole start, if you roll back to where we started this like 4 years ago, this was probably 3 years ago, was getting the mobile operators together in a room and getting some common agreement, getting MEF together and building a solution from an industry perspective. But then, importantly, you know, all of that was about educating the aggregators and the service providers, educating the operators, educating the merchants. So in this case, banks who were signing up for this program. And the outcome from this was that, you know, a lot of people in all of those organizations started to understand the protections that were needed for citizens in that market. And, you know, it's been great to see that the mobile operators and the banks and government agencies have all been so proactive, updating their websites, updating all their documentation, helping to educate the tens of millions of people in this country, which has been brilliant. You know, that the outcome from all of this is that, you know, when you look at the impact of SMS fraud in the UK compared to other countries around the world, it is significantly lower because of the protection registry, which is just like brilliant, you know, well done. And that's down to everyone. So that was, you know, because we're talking about education here, this is about education and educating the businesses, educating their customers and rolling it out from there. There is sometimes, you know, the work won't stop, I don't think, because one of the other outcomes was that there's a reporting method where if you get a scam SMS, you can forward it to 7726. And that number then sends it off to fraud and security teams in the banks, and they'll do takedowns on the URLs, they'll block the numbers, trace back where they've come from. And unfortunately, of course, on the back of that, you need enforcement agencies and all those things that are happening. But actually, what's being observed is that there are so much being reported into 7726. There is more education required because of the number of false positive responses that are coming in. This isn't just about negative. This is about the public thinking something's fraudulent when actually sometimes it's not. And so that education, you know, needs to carry on, and that's partly our job, and which can mean some difficult decisions in the mobile ecosystem in terms of shutting off some of those clients who may be traversing things that aren't 100% legitimate, which is hard for all of us, but we need to progress down that route. So I think MEF and its position in helping educate the mobile ecosystem needs to carry on. And I know with the protection registry that's talked with lots of other countries around the world on how that can work, and that's brilliant. We need to carry on that, and in all of those markets really. So I think MEF's doing the right thing. We're giving away things like the fraud framework and the code of conduct. That's on the site. Go away and get it and sign up for it and help educate. But yeah, I think all of us need to be pushing for people to use that framework, and then also getting involved in where we can take it further.
Fantastic. Jason, thank you. So 7726, in case you people thinking, what's 7726? It spells out spam on a phone. So hence that. And Jason was talking about the UK Sender ID Protection Registry, and also mentioned the Business SMS Code of Conduct. And remember, everything here at MEF is member-led. It's all put together by members and associated with the SMS Code of Conduct, which any company, it doesn't matter whether you're a MEF member or not, you can sign up to that Code of Conduct, obviously, if your company complies and can stick to the rules and regulations as laid down in that document. And associated with it is a really fantastic educational piece which details the 14 identified types of potential SMS fraud in there. And it does so in a really crystal clear manner, and it's absolutely fantastic. So as Jason said, it is freely available from our site. You can easily go and get it, and please do that. Certainly if you're a MEF member, make use of every single resource we have. So thank you for bringing that point to bear, Jason. Much appreciated. And I must add, all 4 companies here, Intis Telecom, IMI Mobile, Infinite Convergence, and XConnect, are signatories to the Code of Conduct. So thank you very much for that. Now, Andre, Jason was mentioning lots of different types of organization and people, so stakeholders across the mobile industry. So really, for example, you've got operators, you've got subscribers, you've got businesses, enterprises, governments, technology companies that actually build and roll out the solutions we're talking about for networks. From your personal perspective and your personal experiences, which parts of this ecosystem, which of these stakeholders I've mentioned could do with actually being educated the most or need to understand the most from your perspective?
I think that this is mostly for end customers. Why? Because according to our experience, customers very often ask us to send spam, for example, or any text messages unexpected, and we have to limit them. And if sometimes customer ask us because they didn't know about rules of mobile technologies, sending text messages, and we permanently explain them what they can send, what is the best practice, because for example, text messaging is not only sending, this is about conversion. For example, if you send a text to any person, your conversion rate will be very, very bad, and we permanently explain and try to educate our customers to have a good practice, the best practice from mobile messaging.
Thank you, Andre. So over to you, Matt. What about other stakeholders across the mobile ecosystem? All the ones we've mentioned, we've talked about already. Which ones do you think really could do with that bit more attention when it comes to the education side of things?
Definitely. I think every stakeholders are essential. What I would say at Infinite, we spend a lot of time working, supporting, educating, engaging the so-called enterprise, which is a broad word. I mean, this is actually from government to state to local. So these are the public sector themselves, and as well as the private. I mean, the verticals that we work with, the healthcare, the financial, the education sector. These are some of the key stakeholders that we work, whether it's business messaging, the SMS, conversion, the communication, to the secure agile collaboration, our NetSphere solution that we talked about, the voice, video, text, screen, the whole collaboration. And I want to make a point too, with this, the situation, the new normal that we're in, this is not just nice to have anymore. This is actually mission critical. I mean, they have to have this solution to be working, to be secure, we need a privacy to be able to get things done. So the shift to, just, that we can just get by some of these ecosystem and solution that help them to collaborate, to communicate better, is becoming much more pressing now with the new normal that we are in. So to that point, I would say again, enterprise, I will see on enterprise and of course the end user, but we reach out to the enterprise, we engage them, we educate them, and hopefully that will translate to the education to their own subscribers or end users or patients or customers or whoever their end users might be.
Tim, over to you, because I'm surprised personally. I know I can't say anything because I'm the moderator. I'm sitting back and resisting temptation, but there is one particular area that no one has actually mentioned yet.
I'll see if I can guess what that is. Although I'm going to start by just echoing Matt's point about the enterprise. I was absolutely shocked. Well, not shocked, but just surprised. There was an event I attended where it was really talking about the successes of RCS and giving some case studies of how RCS was doing in the marketplace, and talking about a number of enterprises standing up and talking about how they changed their marketing plans.
Tim, apologies for interrupting. Could you just mention, because there are probably some viewers out there, they won't know what RCS is. What is RCS?
So rich communication services. So, okay, I like to think of it as the next generation of SMS, where it becomes rich, where it is fully media capable. As to just the simplicity of text. But in this particular instance, it was actually taking a step back, as one of the enterprises was saying, we've been doing advertising and events type marketing. That's been our marketing strategy. All of a sudden, we've sort of realized actually there's another way of doing this. And they admitted in their particular case, although this event was about RCS, they had actually just started using messaging. Just as simple as that. They'd suddenly realized that if they could identify who their audience was, their subscribers, their typical customers, and directly market to them through messaging, totally different story from their traditional published advertising and attending events. And they were talking about how it wasn't really just the transition to technology. The technology was almost irrelevant. It was this complete transition from a broadcast media to directed media. And all of a sudden, it changed all the rules of their business. So I kind of did that, I've been working in this industry for a very long time. And you kind of say, so doesn't everybody know that? Should that be a surprise to these people? But it absolutely was. And so there's still, I think, a huge number of enterprises out there that are learning that there are other ways of doing basic marketing. And there are things that we kind of know and love that we just assume everybody goes down that track. And that's, again, where I think just this basic thing of don't assume anything. Don't assume people do know this stuff. So it's not just education, it's just informing people of some of these things. Now, I think, I don't know whether you were going there with your comment about other areas, because I kind of see the other side of our business are the MNOs, the mobile operators themselves. Well,
that's what I was aiming at. Yeah.
Because I think, I think that's been fascinating in that, their expertise and specialization has been in subscribers. That's what they do. They offer a service to the subscriber, not necessarily being so hot on providing services to business and to enterprise. Their focus is on deploying those phones out to the individual. And I think that has resulted in almost a vacuum within those organizations themselves, where the understanding of what you can do in this A to P space is still early stages. You know, there are organizations just beginning to recognize that that is a business opportunity. And so I think, you know, one is in, okay, where does this information come from? The enterprise. Here we are, the mobile ecosystem, effectively the messaging ecosystem that sits in the middle, and then the MNOs are on the other side of this. They're actually part of the delivery piece. So I kind of feel we've got to educate in both directions, and it's a bit of a balancing act to make sure that both the delivery piece and the origins of those marketing campaigns are on the same page. And again, to me, it's about leveling the playing field and making sure we use the same language, we use the same vocabulary, we use the same concepts. And that's also a thing, and that builds trust, because you're actually talking the same language with people, and you're all recognizing what you're all talking about. So that would be the other side of it. And I think we have got a job to do there, and we shouldn't make any assumptions there either. There's a lot to be learned right the way across the board.
Jason, over to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I agree there, Tim, actually, you know, because mobile operators, just like a school, just like a government department, just like anywhere, they've all got accountants and lawyers and admin staff and managers, and every organization's got them. But actually, what we're doing in the mobile industry, you know, all of us here, is actually quite specialized. And actually, you know, the kind of things that we're looking at are, you know, are seen as very technical, very detailed, and it takes a lot of focus for an organization to get to that level. You know, one of our values in IMI is that every interaction matters. And that's whether it's an internal conversation or with a customer, we always stick to this value and refer back to that. And that really helps us in terms of trying to understand what the customers want, whether they are the enterprise or the mobile operator or the school or whoever it might be, because actually those services are really important, because a mobile operator may want us to deal with all their CRM campaigns, you know, and send very large campaigns on their behalf. I don't know, let's pick the government campaign last year, you know, to UK citizens. We processed the traffic for 3 of the 4 mobile operators in the UK. You know, it's what, 75 million messages in about 4 hours. You know, it's a lot of messaging, and there aren't many people who can operate that scale and that kind of load while still operating business as usual. And so understanding where the customers are and what they can deliver actually is really hard. We can help educate them on what's available, but actually teaching them all about the ecosystem probably isn't in their best interests. It's probably in our best interest that as an mobile industry, in one way or another, we can help them deliver services just like any organization can, I think. I don't think we should try and teach them everything and let them do everything. I think we're there to assist them in their business, the same as every other business is there to support another business. You know, I don't do everything. I buy other services from other parties. And why do I do that? Because they're good at it. They're really good at it. And so there's no point in me trying to build something and do it when I can go to someone and buy it, and it makes my life easier and improves their position as well. And so I think we should think about enterprise and mobile operators in the same way.
Yeah, totally agree. Partnership is the way forward. This community and working together and staying where you're strong, but helping each other out. Fantastic. Now, Andre, we're all from this mobile ecosystem. All of us here have been in the industry for 10, 20, sometimes some of us 30 years plus. And I don't know about you, but if I look at business messaging companies, I look at mobile operators, I look at companies across the mobile ecosystem, I sometimes see lots of companies, they have amazing solutions which they're selling to other enterprises and everything like that. but they're not actually using themselves internally for their own usage. So their engagement internally perhaps may not be the best. Is that something you've seen, you've noticed yourself as well? Because we're all working from home at the moment, but there's so many companies in telecoms where I know the policies, you've got to be in the office, you've got to be here, you've got to be there. I'm sure that will have changed in the past year, but hang on a second, we're all about connectivity and enabling this. Shouldn't we be essentially practicing what we preach? What do you see yourself? Do you think businesses could be better at using their own solutions themselves internally for engaging with employees and their own customers?
Yes, why not? I think that the business have to permanently improve solutions for using end customers and corporate users, and all this technology surround us. And as for our company, we try to bring our customers the best practice with the interfaces and with the last technologies, with working in databases and all of this. So we feel that this is our mission to improve IT technologies near us and with our customers.
Exactly. So it starts at home. So the way you deal and manage your own customers, you would make it really, really simple and easy for them to communicate with you. Fantastic.
Yes.
Matt, what about you yourself? And you've been around the industry a long time. How would you actually grade us in the industry using what we are selling essentially for managing ourselves and partnerships?
Good question. I think, let me answer that in two-part answer. One is first, what we are, like I said, to your point about what are we doing to use our own technology and promote that, and become proponent of what we promote outside. So we at Infinite Convergence, we have changed from to a virtual office with our NetSphere solution. We are using it internally. We are when we work with partners and customers, we engage them and provide free license to those guest users, for example. So we encourage. So because that's it, to your point. That's using your own technology and promoting that. I think in the ecosystem itself, I think I would grade that a kind of a C+. I think for example, it just in terms of SMS. When we are promoting events or for example, we could be using shortcode to promote it, for example, things like that. So there's a lot of the technology is available to us everywhere. But I think there is a lot of room to improve in terms of utilizing all these available tools that are out there, whether it's business SMS and messaging, to communicate, to promote, to engage, to the things that we do and here at Infinite in terms of this kind of a messaging, with in collaboration and communication and messaging within within employees, within students, within teachers and parents. So like I said, the solutions are out there. I think the other point I want to make also, I think to your point about partnership, is kind of key, because at the end of the day, when you try to deliver an end-to-end use case that is working for a specific environment, a specific ecosystem, a specific vertical, specific schools, specific banks, you can't do it alone, really. It's very difficult for me to work. So we encourage, whether they are resellers, system integrators, partnership, technology partnership, strategic partnership, to work with us, and so that we can provide and realize the potential of the technology and the ecosystem to the end user, because there's no point of us having them without without users using them. I rather users be more capable and telling me what I don't have than than me educating them. So I think when we get to that point where we see users are so savvy in our technology and giving us excellent feedback, I think we've reached that point of say that, yeah, I think we can get ourselves an A.
Okay, well, very good. Tim, what about you, XConnect, and how do you see other companies in the industry do actually use what you're? Well, you're different. You're a different business. You're not so much business SMS. You don't have that. So, for example,
so I would really struggle to use 300 million number portability lookup in an hour. I mean,
I'll let you off. Okay.
I need an industry to serve, I'm afraid.
Okay,
we're very specialised, and it's not really the kind of thing that makes too much sense to use within a company like ours. When it comes to maybe some of the things I was talking about earlier on, in terms of the principles of directed messaging, and of knowing who you need to talk to, knowing who your industry is, knowing how to deliver those messages in a way that they're interesting and they'll get read, and so that I think is something where we're almost learning from our customers. We learn from the way our customers actually communicate with their customers, and it does affect the way you market. It does affect the way you communicate with your own little ecosystem that you're supplying. So I think that's about as far as I can push it in terms of using our own.
Exactly, but the industry as a whole, other players around the ecosystem using SMS, for example, as a means of internal communication, other such things.
And I think that is where the market is learning and getting better. One of the challenges in our market, it's in all our mutual interest that the channels that we use are kept clean. We are desperate not to allow our channels to get polluted with spam and fraud and all of the other things, and the unreadable nature that we've now reached with email. So, I think we're all sort of in that mutual position where we're saying, okay, so where's the right place to use this? Let's not overuse it. I only want to communicate with somebody when they really want to hear what I want to say. And I think that's something which this particular ecosystem has done an incredibly good job of pulling itself up by, it's that old phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's recognized that it can't eat its own market. We've actually got to build the trust within that marketplace to ensure that the channel stays clean, the channel stays valuable, and we retain that point that Andre was talking about earlier on. You want to make sure you get the opens, you want to make sure you get the responses. And the only way you're going to do that is by making sure that the messaging that you're using is appropriate. So I think that's where this industry actually has. It's learnt from its customers. It's learnt from best practice in that environment. It's a great example of the whole piece of the code and practice. You learn from what is good, what is bad, what is acceptable, what is not, and you take it on board. And that's where I think, I think that's a great case where the industry is using what it knows and what it sells and applying it to its own environment.
Thank you. Jason, would you agree with Tim?
Yes, I think I would. I guess, going back to, I guess the starting question, do we use our own software, our own systems? Yes, absolutely. Where we can, we do. We've probably, not everywhere. Some of our systems are quite bespoke to certain industries, like healthcare and video calling with doctors and patients. In those scenarios, you just want to make it as simple as possible for both parties, because neither of them are technologists. so you just want to develop something that's easy, but actually for us internally in the business, you wouldn't use the same kind of software. You don't need waiting rooms and all those kind of things around it. You know, it's a different kind of environment that we operate in. But absolutely, where we build and run things and sell things to customers, we use them for our own benefit, where it makes sense to do so. I think that that other bit really around trying to find the right technology for communicating, though, is really important, because you know, it probably goes back to the previous point, which is using organizations to help support you where it makes sense to do so. So delivering an SMS is great some of the time. You mentioned RCS, that's great some of the time. ABC is great. Google messaging is great. They're all great services, voice, video, whatever you email, whatever you want to do, WhatsApp, they're integrated and they work on a platform, on our platform. But the point is, they don't work in every country in the same way. So WhatsApp might be bigger in India from a business perspective, but it doesn't really work in the UK for business. It's not on the same trusted level. And so in the UK, it is more SMS moving into RCS and ABC. You know, it's kind of like the US is very similar. You know, they've all got their own pros and cons. And so it's choosing what your customers want and thinking about all of those interactions, really. But and I think that's what MEF is here to help educate on and continue with the webinars and the sessions to help us as an industry, and then the enterprises understand some of the value of some of these things, so that they start to use them a little more and experiment in some of these areas, because that will help grow the market for everybody and make sure us as consumers of all of these services get the benefit. Otherwise, we'll all get stuck in those horrible, like, you know, where we used to be 10 years ago, IVR loops and things like that, you know. So a lot about call deflection and those kind of processes. How do you speed all those things up? So yeah, there's a lot to do, but I think the mobile industry has the answer to a lot of those questions. It's just educating enterprises, be they MNOs or banks or delivery companies or whoever they might be, into these are the options that are available for them. And I think MEF can assist in that.
Jason, we're nearly done. So we're actually 3 minutes away from the end. So very, very quickly, one sentence, each of you. Start with you, Andre, very quickly. 2021, what do you see the key issue being for the world of business messaging this year, the rest of the year? What for you is the most important thing?
I think that this industry, I hope that it will help all people to resolve situation with the pandemic and this one, and help to connect every people between each other and with the business to their customer, and get response from customer to business.
So it's going back to basics, really basic connectivity, connecting people. Yep. Matt, very, very quickly yourself.
Yes, I can agree more, but I think the one thing I want to add is that I think the virtualization, the digitalization, a big word, but I think in the just acceleration with the pandemic, the new normal will compel, you know, us to do more, to use technology in exciting new ways. I would say, I think my guess that millennials and the Gen X and the Gen Z will drive some of these new application use cases that we have not think of today. So I'm excited about the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about cutting you off in your prime, sir, but we're running out of time. Very quickly, Tim, just a few seconds. And then.
So, you know, I think it's going to be about helping people trust what they hear and read, what they receive. You've got to have the trust in it. You've got to have the verification of that information. You've got to have the confirmation of that information. And I think that whole piece about managing news, managing information, ensuring you can trust what you're told is going to be.
Thank you. So trust. So, and finally, Jason.
I agree with everything. I think the only other thing I'd add is I'd like to try and see some consistency in some of the services around different that are offered by different operators to make it a little bit easier for enterprises to choose some of these delivery channels rather than going over the top or another way maybe. to communicate.
Exactly, and this is what we here at MEF are hoping to do as a community. Remember I said we're member-led. We're going to be seeing a couple of new extra working groups coming into MEF, and one of those will actually be business messaging for growth. So this will very much touch on and work on many of the areas our panel has talked about today. So I'd like to thank all my panelists, Andre Internetorg from Intis, Matt Ekram from Infinite, Tim Ward from XConnect, and Jason Lund from IMI Mobile. And thanks to all of you watching today. And all the very best, and have a great day or evening wherever you may be. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
20th birthday. There we go. Thank you.
Nice.